The idea of this podcast is to interview successful people in advertising to equip, motivate, and hand you some knowledge that will better your chances to break into the advertising industry. Today, we do just that with Ashley Bozeman. Ashley Bozeman is a multi-dimensional creative who has a background in comprehensive and traditional art. She's an art director at Mother, an advertising agency based in Brooklyn, New York, where she is a lead creative on the holiday campaign for Target. So to all the listeners out there, let's make sure Mother is on your agency radar. Before Mother, she spent 3.5 years at the Martin Agency in Richmond, Virginia, where she was the first Black woman to be hired in the history of the company's creative department. Here she worked on brands like Geico, DoorDash, Old Navy, and Oreo. In 2017, she graduated from the Creative Circus with a certificate in art direction and graphic design. Before that, she received her bachelor's degree in public relations from Hampton University in 2015. Ashley is very passionate about using her platform to amplify the voices of underrepresented communities through creativity, mentorship, and various multimedia avenues, in hopes of making the creative industry more diverse and accessible to all, something we can all get behind. To see Ashley's recommended resources just for you, head over to our Instagram at Breaking and Entering Pod. All one word, at Breaking and Entering Pod on Instagram. This show is supported by Chicago Portfolio School. This is a one-year portfolio school option that has helped thousands of students break into the ad industry, and they can help you too. To learn more about them and their process, visit them at chicagoportfolio.com. Now, on with the show. This is going to be a good one, and I'm super excited for y'all to listen to it. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast, and as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. Ashley Bozeman, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. Thanks for coming on. How are you doing today?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I am good. It is Tuesday. It's 2:00. We're slowly making it through this week. But I'm feeling good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, we scheduled this pretty short notice, like just a couple hours ago. So I appreciate you coming on again. You are an art director at Mother, which is, what is Mother? Is it a design agency? Is it an ad agency? Tell me about it.
Yeah, so Mother is an independent ad agency. I specifically work at the New York office, so I'm at Mother New York. But there is a Mother London, a Mother LA, and I think also a Mother Shanghai. So they are kind of all and about. But what's really cool is that they are, again, more of on the smaller scale as far as like size wise of employees. But it's really a cool experience to be a part of an independent agency. And so we are, there's no one that we need to report to or anything like that. So they take the creative risk that they see fit. So that's where I'm at.
That is a constant theme in this podcast, is independent versus
I'm sure
owned by a holding company of some sort. Pros and cons of both. And
yes,
obviously, like being independent, you could be more nimble. I think, like you said, you don't have that approval process. Yeah, you've been I was about to bring it up now. We might as well just get into it.
Yeah.
You were just at Martin, right? That's
Sure
I'm pretty sure that's independent. Am I wrong?
No, so they are under IPG. So they So Martin's under IPG. And so again, also too, I think working remotely sometimes it's also kind of hard, and I've also kind of been siloed in like my in the one brand that I'm currently working on. But so I haven't seen like a ton of differences just yet, holding company versus independent. But I do love, I spent 3.5 years at Martin, and again, best 3.5 years ever. Love Martin to death. But again, I think now it's cool to kind of have an opportunity just to see what else is kind of just out there, and just more for creative growth. So.
Oh yeah, and we'll get to that. I was just curious, but that even aids the argument sometimes. Like if you are owned, I know Droga's owned. I know, well,
Mhm,
now I know Martin's owned. Like, you could still
mhm.
come up with like super great work, be one of the best agencies out there.
Sure,
So
exactly.
I am curious, like, about your role today at Mother.
Mhm.
You gave me an amazing bio before this, and it says that uh, you lead creative on the holiday campaign for Target, and you're an art director. So Target holiday campaign, that's got to be awesome. Tell us about what you're doing right now, because you've been there for 7 months now.
Yeah, so, it's still very new.
Mhm.
I came there probably end of May, I think was my start date. And so we've just been rocking and rolling ever since. It's myself and then it's 2 other creatives, and so the 3 of us are kind of, currently, as of right now, we are the 3 lead creatives,
Nice.
on, Target Holiday. Of course, we have our CDs and everything like that as well. But, right now we're in the process of, post-production really. So we spent probably, I would say probably 2 or 3 months, writing scripts, doing all the concepting, things like that. And then we actually ended up being in LA for, exactly 4 weeks.
Oh
I was
wow.
there. So I lived for a month in LA, from the end of August to about, mid in September. And the first 2 weeks we spent just literally just prep. So that was like set design, that was fittings, callbacks, wardrobe. And then after that, we had 8 shoot days. And then I had a ninth day, which was a reshoot day. But I did that from home. And so that was like a little virtual thing.
Wow.
And then we jumped straight into editing. And so we've been doing editing and then mixing and then coloring and then grading. And now we are just on the last, like, we're just grading or we're doing the last effects for our December anthem. But November is completely out there.
Wow.
You should be seeing it on your airways. And
What
so
did you
that
make? What were you producing?
yeah, so, it's actually a lot. So,
Yeah.
we this year, um, they just wanted to just do more, which was just a really great opportunity. And so we have a November 30-second anthem. We have a December 30-second anthem. We also have a Spanish language 30-second anthem. And then I want to say between the months of December and November, there's probably about I would say altogether, probably about 6 to 8, 15-second spots,
Okay.
and then probably about, like, 6 6-second spots.
Wow.
And again, some of those things were obviously lifts that we would put into the anthem.
Mhm.
So you might see something like again, but a lot of it was very unique. And then also too, on top of that, everything also then has to be every spot has to also be translated into Spanish, except
Mm.
for the 2 anthems. So all the 15s then it's like a 2 for. So you get 115 in English, 115 in Spanish. And so
Yeah.
right now we're just in the process of just shipping stuff out. So yeah, it's been quite a beast, I can't lie. I can,
Yeah. Very interesting.
yeah.
And now, so where are you at right now? You're in post production, you said?
Yes, so right now we're in post-production. We are working on, shipping some stuff out for December, and then, after that, I think by the time November or, not November, but, Thanksgiving hits, we should be at a good place with that, and then December will start to launch on December 1st.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I was gonna ask you what your role entails, but that was pretty much that pretty much hits it all. That's
Yeah.
really good.
It was, and but it's been really great, like, again, to truly go from the concepting phase all the way
Mhm.
until, like, I mean, like, to also to work on a brand like Target, it's so different because also too, everything that you have in the spot also has to be Target-based objects. So any sets that we pull together, all the couches, all the furniture, all the things like that. And, we spent so much time like actually shopping through the website and picking things like that we can bring to set and then
Mhm.
doing all of the set designs. I think it was all together, it was like 21 unique sets that we had built and then also had to
Wow.
paint and then redress and
21?
21.
Wow.
So it was a lot, and again, it's just like just for these different vignettes that we have in each of the spots, but, we'll go from that. We worked on The wardrobe was very, very extensive. The food, even too, was very extensive. The food styling brief and making sure that we're representing cultures correctly in the way that we prepare dishes and foods, and making sure we're doing research there. And then, of course, hair and makeup, or glam as we call it, was also a whole nother process. Same with lighting. So truly anything that you could think of production wise, like this was a great lesson in knowing how
Well,
to.
what were you expected to like contribute like after the concepting portion? Like, are you just there every day? Like, what were your responsibilities exactly? Was it just
Yeah.
like all over?
Yeah, so it was a little bit of all over. So, and because it is so much work, we did kind of like divvy up some of the things of like who was, or like which team at times could lead
Hmm.
a certain aspect of it. So, for example, me and my partner at the time, we had led what was it? Like it was styling, like wardrobe, and we also led food styling.
Hmm.
And so with that, we actually like we created with the brief. We created the brief. We went through and made sure that like these are the things we needed with the wardrobe. Or our stylist, we actually, that's why we were there so early. We did all these like lay downs where we look at every single like from the casting, we then find outfits to that one works for that person, but then two works as a collective. So thinking about the color story there as far as like, okay, if we have some two people in blue, maybe we put the little girl in purple, then maybe we put somebody else in like a, another cooler color. So then that way you can have this really nice color story, and making sure that
Wow,
that also works
it
well.
makes sense.
Yeah, and then that making sure then that also then pops off with the set colors and what that looks like, because then if it blends in too much, or
Mm,
blends in too much to like the couch or the bed or whatever it might be, then like that can't work. And so it was just a huge matrix of just trying to figure out a little bit of everything. But there's truly not a thing that I don't think that
mm,
any of us didn't touch. I think everybody got to touch something, because it was physically just so much stuff to do. And
absolutely.
so.
I mean, are there other agencies that you're working with, like for shooting and production, or is it just all mother?
Yeah, no, no, no. So we had a production company, Little Minx. We did Hurt City for the mixing, Rock Paper Scissors for editing,
Okay.
Merman. I think we also use as well. So, of course, those were
Hmm.
our main partners for sure.
Right.
Um, but we were still just like the agency of
Of
record.
course. Of
Yeah.
course. Well, now you're all done with that, right? So when can we see it all, and where can we find it?
Sure. So right now, actually, if you go on Target.com, you or not Target.com, but Target on YouTube, you can
Okay.
actually watch the 30-second spot. It also should be airing probably on most channels. I don't know the specific ones off the top of my head, but even like again, Hulu ads and YouTube ads, you'll see a lot of those 15-second ones. But know that again, those big anthems will for sure be on. Those will be on YouTube, so that'll be great.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice. Well, you did a great job there, but I want to also know just like high level, like tell us about Mother. How many
sure.
people work there? Give us like the profile on the agency. So for people that are maybe haven't heard of it, well, you should have heard of it, but people that haven't heard of it, give them the rundown. Like, what's the feel? It's in Brooklyn, but what else do they need to know?
Yeah, for sure. Um, so actually, them moving to Brooklyn is actually a very new change. That's something that just happened. They just opened up their new office, literally a few weeks ago,
Oh,
and so now they're actually based in Kiwanis, Brooklyn. I still working remote. I haven't had a chance to move out to New York just yet, but when I was up there to visit, the space is beautiful. It's like this beautiful like warehouse. It's like so much beautiful natural light, the plants, the decor. It's
mhm.
really lovely, and so they are now. That's like a new change that they're now in Brooklyn.
So they moved from where to where? From
I want to say, and again, I hope that I don't get this wrong. They were like closer to, I think, almost like Hell's Kitchen.
okay,
Um, and now they are in Brooklyn. I
okay,
believe that's where they were. I've never been to the old office before,
sure.
but yeah, so they're there. They are I know at least for the New York office that again, kind of like a smaller amount of people, I'd probably say. Um, I'd say probably just reaching about like 200,
That's
maybe.
good. That's good size.
Maybe. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a nice size. I want to say that the creative department is probably about like maybe 80, 60 to 80, somewhere in
Sure.
there. And so, and hopefully I'm not butchering these stats,
Mhm.
but again, they are um, a bit of a nice, like kind of again, I like that size a lot because it's
Mhm.
enough for you to know everybody in the office
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
kind of know what everybody's working on, which I
Right.
think is really helpful. So, so yeah, so we have, and then also too at Mother, at least at the New York office. So, our big accounts there include Dave and Buster's, Target. Um, I know also too the New York Public Library, which is a really cool account that they have as well. They do Instagram stuff, and then again some like cool like pro bono projects that they'll also have, and then as well as their advertising, Mother's also very highly known as having just an outstanding design program.
Mm.
Um, and so, in a design department, and so the design department, it's like oh, it's almost like its own entity.
Ah.
They're very much so a part of it, but I mean, they've even designed like the branding suite for Reese Witherspoon's what is her book club, which is really dope. So
Hmm.
yes, so we have them as well, and so outside of advertising, Mothers is very, very, very highly known for their design
Wow.
department, which
I'm
is
looking through the website right now. It's really
yeah.
cool looking.
And it's, you know, and it's again, as an art director, especially, it's really nice to be a part of um, somewhere that is so so visually uh,
Mhm.
based. And so I always was a fan of theirs, and I always knew that you know that they had done like just beautiful work. And again, as an art director, especially even working on holiday for Target, has just been great because there are just so many skills and stuff you can learn.
Absolutely. Are they fully remote still, or are they expecting people to come in the office? What's the situation there on
Yeah, so
experience?
yeah, yeah. So they are trying to get people back in because they do have this really nice new space.
Right.
Um, and so I think again, some people like myself who are new and who haven't made the full transition yet, I'm not in the office just yet, but I think by probably next year, next spring, that it'll probably be majority of people in the office, I would
Okay.
say. But
Yeah,
people
that's
are
fair.
going every day right now, so that's great.
Hmm. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm reading here it was founded in London in 1996,
Yes.
but now it's in New York and all over. Great.
Yeah.
Let's back it up now. So we got Mother. We know what you're doing now.
Sure. Yep.
But so we know I'm listening. I think a lot of people probably listening this episode, they probably know the agency, they might know you, they might know the role that I'm going to include as an
Yeah.
art director.
Yeah.
So they want to be you or they want to be in a similar role as you. So let's figure out how you got to this part of your career and let's kick it back all the way to college. I think
Yeah.
we can just start there. And what
Sure.
was that definitive moment when you said, I want to pursue advertising? Was it right away in college? Did you have to go to another college?
Hmm.
Give us the rundown.
Yeah. So um, I'd like to say that I stumbled into it. I had no idea that this is what I wanted to do for a long time.
Hmm.
In college, I actually, I'm somebody who also too, like, I always loved art. I love to draw. I love to paint. I love to make things. And I should have known that I probably wanted to do something creative when I was taking art classes every single semester in college. But I was a PR major. And so I majored in public relations and, you know, which was cool. I didn't hate it at all. I thought it was kind of cool, but like, um, I remember one semester I didn't take an art class, and it was like just like I just felt all over the place. Like
Mm,
art was the one thing that made me feel like, okay, I'm making something like things are happening. And
great.
so
Yeah,
I didn't realize it at the time, but like that was like something that's
sure.
very like essential to me. And so so you know, I graduate and again, as another sign, as soon as I graduate, I say, okay, well, if I have to give a job in advertising, or not in advertising, in PR, then I have to make sure that I get, or that I take some classes in art on the side. And so while I was looking for jobs, I was actually more so looking for like art schools to just take like night classes at um,
Ah, yeah.
most of the time. And so in the process of doing so, I actually ended up finding the Creative Circus.
Hmm.
And so, you know, when you are looking for jobs in communications, a lot of times when I was just scrolling down, I would actually pass the role of art director. And I always thought that that was really cool. But I was like, I would look at the description and be like, how does anybody get to be this? Like, it sounds so cool, but I have no idea how I would be able to be a part of that. And so, when I found the circus, I was like, oh, I hit the jackpot. Like, I could just be an art director. I could just go do that instead. I'll just go back to school. And so, like, I literally, like, I prayed on it. I asked my parents. I was like, okay, I have an idea. Can
Mhm.
I do this? I know y'all were probably expecting me to get a job, but listen, I think that this is what I want to do. And so they were like, okay. So
Mhm.
I moved and I went to Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia. And so after graduation, I then moved to Atlanta, Georgia for 2 years. And mind you, when I came to the circus, unlike some of my classmates, like I had not taken one graphic design class. I
Okay.
had not opened Adobe once. I had no idea about thinking. I honestly didn't even know it was really for advertising, to be
Okay.
honest. Like, I just thought it was just to be an art director. I literally went into it like, okay. And so I just call it like it was what I like to call it was a 2-year boot camp because on top of learning how to literally think conceptually and like learning all the things of design, I was like literally learning the programs. Like I was
Right.
learning to use Illustrator and Photoshop and
Mhm.
learning about like hierarchy and layout and color and typography and all of these things, which was extremely stressful at times because again, it was things that I loved, but or that I didn't even know that I loved, but I loved, and but at the same time to learn it and then being asked to execute it at the same time
Mhm. Yeah, that's tough.
that was really tough, and so,
Yeah.
um but again, I made it out alive, it was great, and so I think it was at the end of my, it goes by quarters, at the end of my last quarter,
Mhm.
um, there is a portfolio kind of conference thing, in New York every year called, Here Are All the Black People in New York, and, I had been to it the year before, and I brought my little portfolio that was, like, very much so, like it was very much so giving baby portfolio, and that was fine because it was good for me to have practice, but, like, I knew it wasn't all that, but whatever. But now I had, like, a finished portfolio
Right.
from school, and so I was just like, "Okay, I'm ready," and so I went through and it was very much so like it was just kind of by chance. You stood in the line, you kind of went through people, and one of the people that I happened to talk to worked at Martin. And so, they were just like, no, we really like your stuff. Like, I'll put you in touch with our recruiter and, let's take it from there. I went back to homecoming for Hampton that fall and like a few weeks later. And they were just like, yeah, if you want to drive up and, we can just do like a little interview here. And I was like, okay, sure. And then at the end of the day, it just came down to I actually got two offers either between um, Martin or FCB Chicago.
Mm.
Again, as a girl who's from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and both her parents are from Chicago, I love Chicago, and that's
Oh, we didn't mention that
yeah,
before.
I realized I didn't have it in my thing, but yes, I'm a Midwest girl through and through, and so I was just like, one of my dreams is literally to live downtown Chicago. So I was just like, I could do it. I could just live downtown. It could be dope, X, Y, and Z. But it was just something about Martin, and I told my
Of
mom,
course.
she was just like, "Really?" I was just like, "Yeah." I was like, "I do."
Richmond? Like, what's Richmond?
I said, "What's
Yeah.
Richmond 1?" 2, I already did 4 years in Virginia. Granted, I
Right.
mean, it's like an hour and a half away, but I was just like, "I've done
Mhm.
Virginia." So, when you're in portfolio school, you're like, "I'm about to go to New York. I'm going to LA." Like,
Mhm.
but
What were you gonna work on? Like, what was the decision down to? Like, do you know what clients you were gonna be on or what
so,
team?
so you know what? I don't know if I can't remember. I don't know if I knew a ton about what Martin had for me just yet. I know that they had said a few things like Oreo and things like that, but
Oh, yeah.
actually FC Beast, those clients actually seemed really cool. It was like I think it was like a beer brand and then like something else that seemed really cool.
Hmm.
But honestly, for me, at the end of the day, and just like still to this day, how I try to judge anything I work on, I was literally just judging it by the people. And
Yeah.
it was just something about the people at Martin that made me feel like they had, like, intentionally, like, made space and that they really, really wanted me there. That I
Yeah,
was just like
seriously.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I was just like I told my mom, I said, "If I don't go here, I think I would be missing out on something." And so,
Yeah.
yeah, spent 3.5 years there, and then that just helped to propel. And then again, the only reason why I decided to make the transition to mother is just for just more creative growth. I think you grow when you go to different places and you work
Yeah.
under different leaderships. You take on bigger roles,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that was really the only reason. But again, I loved Martin. It was a great first place for me to be. That was probably the best place I could have been for my
Oh,
first
that's a great one. I mean, FCB would have been great too in
yeah.
Chicago. Both were really good. How did FCB give you an offer? How did
Yeah.
they?
So you know what? I think I might have met them too at the Here All the Black People conference. And then
And wait, I want to ask you about that.
yeah.
Is that's not through Circus, is it?
No. So
That's
this
its own
is
conference, correct?
yes, so the circus will have its own portfolio review.
Yeah.
This one, Here All the Black People is fantastic. It's really for anyone, but it's definitely
Mhm.
geared towards creatives of color, and it's really nice because it's completely free.
Nice.
And also too, you can even apply for travel stipends,
Oh,
which is really
nice.
great. It is just like a 1 day thing. But like a lot of agencies come, they have great speakers, like keynote speakers you can listen to, and then they have a really robust portfolio review.
There
And
you go.
so it was like again just a match made in heaven. And so it just made the process so much easier too. I think when you can just meet people in person for the first time
Mhm.
and just kind of talk through your work. So that was a really cool experience, and I think they just brought it back again this year. Obviously, I know everything was a down year last
Yeah.
year, but definitely a great resource that I
Hmm.
leaned on 2 years in a row.
Yeah,
So
we'll have to link to that
yeah,
in our social.
sure.
Yeah,
So yeah, it
that's
was
great.
yeah. So then that's kind of how I got to here now. Um, but yeah, more so just trying my best to kind of just listen to my gut and just say like, okay, well,
Mhm.
obviously you want to do something creative, so just do it. And then also too, like, you want to work where there's really good people, and that's what I've been trying my best to do. So yeah,
What was it like at Martin? Because I actually, I'm getting a lot of Martin guests on this podcast
yeah,
lately,
yeah.
and people love Martin. I mean, the work is great. The Geico work first comes to mind.
Yeah,
Scoop, there it is.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, like what you said, you Oreo. But like, what did you learn there? Like
yeah,
those 3 years, which is a good amount of time. That's probably above average
yeah,
time span for
yeah.
those roles now. So what did you learn there? Like, what were some of those key learning outcomes?
Yeah, so I think for me at Martin, I think they just taught me how to be like very much so like I was very focused on my craft at Martin, which was great, especially like as a coming out as a junior. Also too, I think that they did a great job in uh just I think like to have such a robust clientele was also great
Mhm.
because it just allowed you to open your mind to be so versatile. And I think when you're first starting out, that's a really great thing to have. I think when you're first starting out, it's not. I feel like it can be beneficial to have like one main thing that you have because it's like okay, now you have like a team and things like that. But when you're kind of like working on like multiple accounts at one time, it allows your brain to truly like max out on its creativity. Like
Interesting.
you're able to kind of like again, how I approached a project for DoorDash was way different than I approached a project for Old Navy, which was way different than when I approached like this podcast series we did for Geico, which was way different than I did for Virginia Tourism.
Hmm.
Like, and so to have also too to come out having that knowledge on both like whether it's like packaged products, whether it's like a food service brand, whether it was this, like also too to have that kind of collection of stuff in your work and potentially whether it made your book or not, you know
Mhm.
that you were able to be just so like I think it just makes you so much more marketable when now you are like when you want to start looking for another place because then you can be like oh yeah well I mean I've done
Mhm.
something in the beverage industry or I've already done something like this and I already know how like my mind can work in those ways and so that exposure I think was invaluable. So that I really appreciated for Martin, um, as well as just like there are just some really great creatives and like extremely hard workers there, and I think especially again when you're first coming out, you want to start to establish the best habits that you can,
Yeah.
and I think that Martin was a good place in doing that, like
Well,
making
that I
doing
have a
that.
question. I'll follow up on that
Yeah.
because you moved there, right? Like this
Mhm.
was all in person, and you're still
Yeah.
there in
Yeah.
Richmond.
Yeah.
Um, like, did you have friends? Like, what'd you do? Like,
Yeah,
how'd you, like, survive? What was it,
yeah,
just work 24/7 there, or what
yeah.
was the situation?
So you know what? It was did things get busy? Absolutely. There were periods of time where like I was so busy and
Mhm,
even last year when we were working remote and I was back home, like I was working, like we were like back to back to back. But again, I loved it. It was great. And it was
mhm,
again, especially like when you're first coming out too, like it's just something about like having ownership, like just being so excited to just work on stuff. So there was a lot of work stuff, but I think that's the thing I probably also too love most about Martin. It's just like I found so many different pockets of community there. So their Black Employee Network was fantastic because it's like I had all these people who not only looked like me, but also too like we could share similar interests and common things, and we would have our own like parties or like little like get-togethers. And so it's just like, and then you also like with that, like if they said, hey, we're going to winery on the weekend or something like that was great. But then at the same time, I also had my creative ladies in the creative department.
mhm.
And those girls to this day, like, I don't know if you like on Slack now, you have a feature where you can talk to anybody.
Yeah, yeah.
We like recreated our group chat because like now we're all spread out. And so now
Oh,
we're like
nice.
all back together again. And like, those are like my creative sisters. Like,
Mhm,
those are my girls. And like, that was fantastic to have them too because like, it was just so easy to make friends at Martin.
mhm.
Like it was ridiculously easy. And that's what made it so fun too, because so many of us also, like you mentioned, we were all transplants. We weren't from, a lot of us weren't from Virginia. A lot of us like
Right.
moved for the job. And so it was fun to kind of figure that out with other people. And
Yeah.
I think that that's where a lot of friendships were built out of literally exploring out of, whatever else we had going on.
Mhm.
I also was lucky enough, my best friend is actually from Richmond
Oh,
and
nice,
he had moved back home. So I was lucky to also have her with me too. So, but
nice.
there are plenty of things to do. And I actually, I love Richmond. I
Hmm.
really do.
Everybody says that
I love
once they
it.
go there.
Yeah.
Maybe interesting.
It's something in the water. I don't know. I can't,
Yeah.
it's
I know
great.
Arts and Letters, that there's gonna be, by the time this is posted, there'll be an episode with somebody from Arts and Letters, which is
Mhm.
another agency over there
Yeah.
in Richmond
Yeah.
that people should check out. But
Yeah.
great. And you're at Mother now,
Yeah.
and my last question, besides our advice portion,
Mhm.
was when you were leaving, like, what was that process like? Was it tough to leave Martin? Did they want you to stay? How did Mother approach you? Like, can you give us insight into that process? Because I know that stresses people out, but
It
that's also
was,
a reality. Like, it's going to happen. So if
yeah.
we can get ahead of it and learn about it, that'd be really, really
Yeah,
great
no,
too.
and it's funny. I think if you've asked this question to like another person, I probably should have listened and I would have gotten advice because that was. I'm not gonna lie, that was a very challenging process. I think also too, it's kind of like it's almost like not in a weird way, but it's almost kind of like a breakup in a way, but
Hmm.
it's like an amicable breakup. It's like
Sure.
nothing's wrong. You're just like I just need to grow. Like I just need to try something else out.
Hmm.
Like
I've had girls say that to me.
it's like, look, nothing's right. Look, it's not you, it's me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but no, like it was hard. It was definitely very tough because also too with that being my first job and for me being there like for 3.5 years, like
Yeah,
that's all that I knew. So there was also too, I knew that there was a lot of I don't know, it was kind of like a lot of risk and there was a lot of fear, I'm not gonna lie, kind of jumping out because I was at a place where I was so comfortable. Like I
sure.
knew
So
everyone.
why'd you leave?
I just had to like it again. I had always told myself like, okay, once you hit like about like 3 years, see where
Mhm.
you're at, see what you need, see
Yeah,
if there's and I think also too, once you kind of feel like, especially when you come somewhere as a junior, um, once you feel like you've kind of done or you've kind of learned pretty much the lay of the land and that like the projects that you're getting tend to feel again they can all feel different and they can all have slight challenges, but if you know that you're in the need or in the looks for like a real challenge
mhm,
or like for something that's like completely different than what you're doing, then I think it's probably a good sign that okay, maybe it's time to try something out. And that's not to say you can't go back to that first agency.
sure.
Again, a lot of people, Martin, were just like, hey, you ever want to come back, let us know.
Love
And
it.
I'm just like, I will. And so to still have those relationships, I'm very thankful for. But
Mhm.
like, um, again, it's just a part of the growing process. I think that that was essentially, I just want to be the best creative that I can be. And
Mhm.
I knew that trying something else out, taking on a massive project like the one I am on now, like
Mhm.
that's just going to make me get to the place that I would like to eventually be. And that's, again, even more experience with production and post production. And as an art director, especially, I feel like that those things were very, very important to me and that I just wanted to get more experience in on a
There it
large
is.
scale. So,
Yeah.
but
Very
yeah,
fair.
mother just hit me up on my personal email. They said, "Hey, we have an opening. We're trying to get people. We're looking for another team to do holiday. Um, you know, let's talk about it."
There it is.
I talked to the ECD. I talked to some CDs, and that's kind of just what it was. But it was a very, very hard decision. It
Yeah.
was a very hard
It's a
decision.
it's a good spot to be in though.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's again, every move too, that salary also goes up,
Mhm.
which again, money isn't everything, but it definitely doesn't hurt.
Right.
And it just makes you feel like you're still progressing.
Yep.
I think sometimes you can look up and you're like, oh shoot, I've been here for a long time, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I've seen all the growth that I've wanted to see. So
No,
it's
it's very true.
just going out on the ledge. That's all.
No, you speak very honestly, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I know that sometimes can be weird to talk about, but you
Yeah.
handle it really well. All right, then I have no more questions unless now I
Okay.
want to open up to you. Like, is there anything like you just want to like you wrote down today, or anything like you want to get out to the audience? Like any just general advice like you wish you would have known when you started off? You don't have to know like have it right now, but
Yeah.
anything that come to mind?
Yeah. I think kind of honestly, like what I mentioned before, it's just like one is just like following your gut, right? Like if there's something that is inherently a part of you, I truly do believe that, like for example, for me, like if I loved being creative and I loved making stuff and I loved art as much as I say, um, then it was going to happen eventually. So you might as well just do it earlier. Is what I just try to tell myself. Like you might as well just lean in earlier because the
Ooh, I like that.
earlier, yeah, like the earlier you lean, because it's going to happen in some
Mhm.
capacity. It's always going to happen because that's just who you are initially. So as soon as you know that, just act on it because it's just better now than later. You know what I mean? So
Wow.
as soon as you hear that thing in your voice, like in the back of your head, that's just like, man, that would be really cool. Or like, or even if something on the side, like, I'm really into food photography, or I'm really into this, like, your mind will literally not let it go until you do it. So you might as well
Mm-hmm.
just go ahead and start. So, but that's again, that same thing goes for like once you feel like if you hear that voice when you think it's time to leave somewhere, if you hear that voice where like I've had friends go from being an art director or being a designer to an art director, like the minute you feel like, I think I wanna, I think I
You'll
want this.
yeah, and you'll know it too. And
You
then
will.
for me, it was like screaming at me. Like
Yes.
I had to get out of PR, and I was like, it was just like go, like get out, and I ignored it, and I was like, all right, like why am I? People get stuck in positions they don't like for years. Like, what's the point?
No, what's also too, it's just like, and again, and I'm also too constantly still working on finding the healthy boundary between making sure I don't put too much of my self worth into work and that
Right.
defining again who I am. However, being a creative, it's so hard to do that because
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like these are the things that come from your head that now you see on TV. So it's just like you want that to be done as well as possible, but it's just like at the same time, like it's just making sure that you are, just, I don't know, just again, taking everything with like a little bit of grain of salt, but then also too, like just listening to yourself because you actually know more than I think. I think we all have more answers within us than we like to give ourselves credit for.
I
I
think everybody knows like what they want to do in
They
some
do.
way, and
They
they
do.
know how to do it too. I
They
think
do. That's the crazy part.
everybody knows what they want to do and
Absolutely.
how to do it, or like
Mhm,
some
mhm,
idea, and you just have to
uh-huh.
go do it. Like,
I was Nike said it best. I'm telling you, I was literally like, I was just like, I don't know. I feel like personally, like I was just kind of like in like a slump where like I just felt like I don't know, I like kind of just like got into like the work from home blues where like I just didn't have like a routine anymore or like whatever. And so I'm over here like reading like articles and watching YouTube videos. I'm like, okay, like how do I get my routine back? And I was just like, girl, you know what you need to do. You
Mhm.
can go and listen and watch and do all these things, but you know
Yeah.
exactly what you need to do.
Mhm.
So we all do know. And so I think it's just kind of following your heart there. And then also too, don't be afraid to like just shake it up. Like if you
Mhm.
liked it before, but now you don't really like it, whether that's a place or whether that's your role, just change it. Because like I mean, we just also we put so much of our time and effort into work. And I really believe I want everybody to like it as much as they can.
Mhm.
If you're blessed enough and there's to do so, like absolutely, like I'm going to make sure I'm working on accounts or with people that I really enjoy, because that's only going to allow me to also pour more of myself into it. So
Yep.
um, yeah, that's like my main piece of advice is
Love it.
just get into it. You
Nice.
you might as well. Why
Um,
not?
I love it. No, this has been great.
Yeah.
It's super honest. It's and candid. Can people reach out to you if they,
Yeah.
they hear this, they want to learn more, or
Yeah.
ask you about agencies or your role or whatever, just talk with you? What's the best way that they can reach out to you?
Sure. So my personal email address is just Ashley Bozeman, AShleyBozeman, AD as an art director, at gmail.com.
Okay.
And then LinkedIn is always a great friend.
Okay. I'll link to all that then
Yeah,
as
Instagram,
well.
all that stuff. Yeah, for
Cool.
sure.
But that's all I got. I mean, I really appreciate it once again. It's been a really great episode, and I
Yeah.
hope people reach out and learn more from you.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. I'm always happy. I think I'm supposed to be meeting a few students actually later on this week from another thing I did last week. So
oh, nice.
I'm always down to super open, because again, I know this can kind of be a confusing and sometimes intimidating industry. It's kind of secretive. So I really appreciate you for having this podcast, because this just helps people just learn a little bit more. And I know that again, I definitely would have benefited from it, because I had no idea what I was doing. So just to
Right.
prep people for what they're getting themselves into, I think is
Great.
God
Yeah.
sent. So
Well,
yeah,
awesome. Thank you. Thank you again. It's
yeah,
been
absolutely.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you so much.
All right. Have a good one.
All right, thank you.
Did you hear anything on this episode about a job you'd like to have someday, soon, in advertising, strategy, design? The kind of job where you use your brain and your creativity? If you did, chances are a portfolio can really help you get that job. That's where Chicago Portfolio School comes in. They have programs and classes that help you show off your thinking and get you the job you want. So visit them at chicagoportfolio.com. And if you drop my name, Gino, into the chat box, they'll send you more info and a cool Sharpie. Or just some more info. You can decide that. Thanks. Thank you so much for listening to this entire episode of the Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast. If you like what you heard, it would mean a lot to us and help us grow and get better guests and better break-ins if you can go to Apple Podcasts and leave us 5 stars and a small review if you have the time. Be sure to connect with our guests if you like what they said by going to our Instagram at Breaking and Entering Pod. That's all one word, Breaking and Entering Pod on Instagram. We have links to their portfolios and their LinkedIn, and they want to connect, so do that. And thank yous. Thank you to Mikey Malarkey, our audio engineer, and Buchan Zhang, our creative director. Can't do without you two, and a team from the University of Illinois. It's a student team from the agency called AdBuzz. They're a PR agency, and it's been a pleasure working with them. Thank you all so much, and we will see you next week with another amazing guest.